Greetings everyone and welcome back to another single button guide. Today we're going to talk about the Windwalker Monk, which I have been very excited to make because Windwalker Monk is a spec that I have never personally been good enough to play. Basically, you're not allowed to use the same spell twice in a row. So, for example, you cannot just be spamming 2 tiger palms, or you're not allowed to use like the same spell in a row because it will basically deal less damage because we have our mastery, which increases the damage of your spell when you're not using the same, and you also have a passive buff that keeps making you stronger when you're not using the same spell in row. And this has been a thing I have always been really hating because I like to just spam my buttons sometimes and it just kind of breaks the entire Windwalker. So the single button assistant actually takes care of this. It actually keeps using different spells. So you will be using your mastery and you will be using your talent there. So very excited for this one here. But as always, we're going to be talking about the stats, the talents, the rotation, the gameplay, and a very, very quick summary at the end. So basically, if you join this video to just know everything in 3 minutes, you should be jumping now to the summary, where I will tell you everything you need to know in 3 minutes. Also, as a new thing, I am going to start making short videos, like not the short, like the format, but like a shorter version of these guides. So we're gonna have this one here you're watching right now, which is probably gonna be like an hour long, and then I'm also gonna make another video next to it, which is gonna be 10 minutes long, where we're gonna go through everything in 10 minutes. But of course, that's gonna be very less information, but more like for people who just want to kind of like know more about it quickly. But let's go to it. So let's talk about stats. So first of all, you're going to have agility. Then after that, it's going to be mastery and haste. Both of them is actually equal important. So, always try to get an item that has haste and mastery if possible. And then versatility and critical strike is the least ones, but still also same equal. Of course, what I mean by you have to start with agility is that you should try and get as much as you can of agility. So that basically means the highest eye level. Mostly important, the highest upgrade level. So what I mean by that, you might be asking, what do you mean by that? If I open up my character here, you can see if I point on my helmet, you can see it says upgrade level champion. That basically means you can see over there, right over there, you can see champion is the third best upgrade level item. That means no matter the stats, I would never ever go down to a veteran, adventure, or explore item because they simply lose too much agility. So I would always only replace my item if it was a champion item, a hero item, or a myth item. Of course, if I get another champion item, then you have to start looking at the secondary stats. Which of the champion items has the best secondary stats? If you can find one that has both mastery and haste, amazing, that's the best you can get. So, highest upgrade level and also mastery and haste, perfect, really good. And of course, if you get then one that is a hero item that has versatility and crit, which is of course the worst secondary stats we can get, it doesn't matter because it still has a higher upgrade level than this one here, so we would always go with that one. So again, always go with the highest upgrade level, and after that, if you get an item that is the same upgrade level, then go for the best secondary stats. Then we have the stats itself. What do they do? First of all, agility increases all damage, scales for area ability, higher item level gear is almost always the best upgrade. Then we have mastery, boost all ability damage as long as you don't repeat the same spell twice in a row. Thanks to mastery combo strikes, very strong for both single target and AoE. And this is what I talked about in the intro. It's very important that we don't use the same ability, but we don't have to think about that because the single button assistant is going to take care of that, which is I think the main stopper for people to actually play Windwalker Monk. So who knows, we might see more Windwalker Monks around after this guide has been dropped. Then we also have haste, speed up energy regeneration. So basically you're going to get faster energy, which is the main source of, getting combo points. Well, combo points or whatever like we call them actually. Reduce the cooldown on Fist and Fury, Rising Sun Kick, Whirling Dragon Punch. Basically, if you open up your spell book, let me just remove the stats window for 2 seconds. You can see here spells that has a green, well, you can actually not see that. Spells that has a green cooldown means that haste actually reduces the cooldown of those spells. So you can see here green cooldown, not green cooldown, not green cooldown, not green cooldown, and green cooldown. So all the spells with green cooldowns get lower by basically the stat haste, which is pretty cool. Beside of that, making your rotation smoother and more consistent. What I mean by it makes it more smoother is basically the more haste you have, the lower your global cooldown is. So default, you have a global cooldown on 1.5 seconds. Every time you use a spell, for example, you can see here, every time I use a spell, my other spells, they have like this little circle that goes around. That basically is the global cooldown. So the more haste you have, it also reduces the global cooldown. When we use the single button assistant, as you can see here, so we're basically getting punished by using the single button assistant by 25% longer global cooldown. That basically means instead of having a global cooldown that is 1.5 seconds, it's 1.89. So having more haste is going to reduce the global cooldown and is actually going to make the single button assistant less punishing. Of course, a normal Windwalker Monk who doesn't use the single button system would of course then still attack faster than you with the spell, since he doesn't or she doesn't have the penalty. But still, the cool thing with single button system is that it tries to use the best rotation as possible. It will use the right abilities over each other. People who doesn't use the single button system, if, for example, if you are like fighting a boss where the mechanics getting very roughly, everyone is dying, stuff like that, people can forget their rotations. They can basically mess up. The single button system doesn't care about stress. It keeps using the right spells in the right order. So yes, some people who doesn't use it will be faster than us, but we don't mess up in the rotation at least. And that can still bring you higher up in damage than them. So just letting you know. Beside of that, we also have versatility. It basically just increases the flat out damage you deal, the healing you do, and also will reduce the damage you take. It can, if you're a person who really likes to do like solo content, like all the time farming very strong bosses alone, versatility might be like a stat you would like, because it's going to make you very, very tanky, but also deal more damage, which of course is a good thing. And then we have Critical Strike, increases your chance to deal double damage. It's solid but slightly behind Haste and Mastery for pure DPS value in this build. So yeah, Critical Strike, not recommended, but of course you cannot avoid it. You will have some items that is gonna have it. So that's basically the stats I'm recommending. Yeah, that's it. Let's move on to the talents. So a little introduction to the talents. Basically, we are playing the Shadowpan. It is mostly the used spec right now. If you go to different stat sites where you can see what spec people are using, almost everyone is using Shadowpan. Not many people is using Conduit of Celestial. So that's also why I went with Shadowpan, because Shadowpan is just, it's a very passive talent tree that you don't have to think like additionally about, where Conduit of Celestial is actually giving us an additional ability, which would even make this build even more complicated. So Shadowpan fits the single button assistance so good, and luckily it's also the meta, so that just makes it even better for us. I, of course, as always, have both a dungeon build and a raid build. The dungeon build is, of course, very focused on single target. The dungeon build is, of course, focused on multiple target damage. It's the best one you can use for any content in the game except raids. When it comes to raids, you should be using the raid build instead, which is way more focused on single target damage. It's more focused, like for example, removing Detox, which is a spell that removes all poison and disease effects. That's mostly used in dungeons, but it's also more like it's all about dealing a lot of damage to the current target you have, where the dungeon build is more about dealing damage to everyone around you as much as possible. You can see it's a very small things that changes over here. It's just some passive stuff, nothing big, but I will go through that in the talents when I talk deeper into it. This was more just like an intro to the talents to tell you why we are going with this. Now, probably the next 30 minutes, we're gonna talk about what's inside this. And again, if you don't really care about listening too much to the talents, you can jump to the next section, which is the rotation. And I'm going to take you through how we actually play this in live action. But for now, let's go through the talents. Alright, let's start with the class tree, which we have here on the left side, the monk tree. First of all, we have Paralyze. Basically, it's kind of like the sheep ability that mages has, but mostly it's you either use it on an enemy where you kind of want to make them not attack for 1 minute, or if they are casting a spell that they're supposed to cast, some like strong ability, then you can also use it as an interrupt ability. We have quite a lot of interrupts as a monk, so this is just one of them. Then we have Rising Sun Kick. It's one of the strongest damage abilities we have, but also the one that is going to trigger a lot of effects. Basically, 7.3 second cooldown, deals a lot of damage and reduces the effectiveness of healing on the target for 10 seconds. Very strong, but it's inside the single button assistant, so you don't have to think about it. Then we have Tiger's Lust, a very nice ability that makes you move for 70% faster for 6 seconds, and remove all roots and snares. Keep in mind you can cast this on yourself or even a friendly member. So if you see someone very far behind you or he's been slowed or anything like that, you can cast it on them and they will move faster and also remove snares and roots. So very nice that you can actually, it is basically Blessing of Freedom that Paladins also has. Yeah, it is basically the same. So yeah. Then we have Fast Feet. Rising Sun Kick deals 70% increased damage and Spinning Crane Kick deals 10% additional damage. I mean, 70%, yeah, I'll take that. Then we have Grace of Crane, increase all healing taken by 4, so very nice. Roll and Chi Torpedo travel a small distance further, so when you actually do rolling, you know, your roll ability, it will just roll a little bit further, like you will even just like a little bit further. Then we also have Calming Presence, reduce all damage taken by 3. A lot of people, they remove Bounding Agility and take Detox instead, which is a spell that removes poison and disease effects. This is usually a very nice one to use in Mythic Dungeons, so you can actually help the team, help the healer removing poison and disease effect. But I will let it up to you if you actually want to have this additionally spell where you need to, you know, remove poison and disease on party members or yourself, or if you just want to have this passively one, because I got a few comments saying, could you try to make these spells like more appealable, like, you know, less buttons, without, you know, of course, sacrificing damage. And this one here is just a strong utility that basically can help your entire team, you know, removing poison and disease effects. But if you're a low-key player and you don't really care too much about that, then you don't need this one here. I'm just saying, in case you need this one here to help your team removing poison and disease, then take this one off, because this one is not important that much, but it's still like a little fun one to have. And it also gives you less spells down here, so it looks nicer. So it's up to you if you want to have it or not, but these are the two that you should be choosing when you actually switch between them. Then we also have Vivacious Vivification. Sounds like a Harry Potter spell. After casting Rising Sun Kick, your next Vivify becomes instant and its healing is increased by 40. This effect also reduced energy cost of Vivify by 75%. So basically, every single time your Rising Sun Kick is being used in your single target in your single button rotation, you can actually use your Vivify, which we have here number 3, for free, and it will actually it will heal 40% more and cost like no energy. Usually it costs 30, but with this one here it's gonna almost be free, like 75% reduced, which is insane. So just every time you're kind of using, you know, every time you're using your Rising Sun Kick, just keep in mind now you can actually use your big healing for free, which is insane. Then we also have Spearhand Strike. This is your main interrupting ability, so every time the boss like a mob is casting a spell that is very strong, you can interrupt it with this one here. This is your main interrupting spell, which is why I have it down here on number 4. Then we also have reduce the cooldown of paralysis by 15%, not 15%, 15 seconds, and the cooldown of leg sweep by 10 seconds. So basically our paralysis and our leg sweep is now having a shorter cooldown, which is nice because then you can interrupt and stun even more. Then we also use Chi Wave, so another spell that is, you know, I told you that Rising Sun Kick is a spell that's going to activate a lot of things. It basically gives you free healing here that you can use after using it, but it also activates Chi Wave. So basically, every 15 seconds, your next Rising Sun Kick or Vivify releases a wave of Chi energy that flows through a friend and foe, dealing 35k nature damage or 65k healing, bounce up to 7 times to target within 25 yards. So what happens is, when you use Rising Sun Kick every 15 seconds or Vivify, it will basically, I keep saying basically, I have to stop using this word, but what it will happen is that it basically releases a Chi Wave that jumps to the enemy, jumps back to another player, jumps to the enemy, jumps back to a player. You know, it keeps like attacking, healing, 7 times. So really, really nice ability. It's, you know, it's a passive, so you don't have to think about it, and it just happens every 15 seconds. Then we have Transcendence, very nice little spell that can help you get away. So, for example, you are first using Transcendence, and then you can use this one here, Transcendence Transfer, on number 6, and you're swapping location with your Transcendence. It's a very nice ability if you know the boss has a potential to throw something bad on you here, then you can put like, your Transcendence over there, so then you can very quickly teleport between the locations. But the main reason for why we actually are picking this one here is not, of course, because of the the teleport, of course, is very nice, but that's not the main reason we picked this one here. That's because we actually get access to the stuff below. Then we also have Celerity, reduce the cooldown of roll by 5 seconds and increase the maximum number of 1 charge. So now you will have 3 rolls and it has even lower cooldown, which is quite nice. Then we have increase all damage dealt by 2%. We also have Ring of Peace. Ring of Peace is your most powerful interrupting spell when it comes to mobs, dungeons, delves, questing. Because what happens is you will spawn a ring like this, and everything inside the ring will get pushed out. So imagine you have 5 mobs casting a very powerful Chaos Ball, Power Blast, anything against your boss, not your boss, your tank. And what you can do is you will cast this ring in the middle of them and they will all get pushed out to the side. And suddenly you just interrupted 5 mobs at the same time. It's insane. And it only has a 40-second cooldown. Then we also have this one here, which is gonna help you with a lot of damage, especially against bosses. Touch of Death can now be used on targets with less than 15% health, dealing 35% of your maximum health in damage. Usually, Touch of Death could only be used like when you actually when you're attacking a target that has less HP than you, or the same HP as you. But a boss fight, a raid boss, it's gonna take a long time till that boss is down on the same HP as you. So this one here basically makes it allowed that now it just needs to be under 15%, kind of like an execute spell, and then it will deal 35% of your maximum health in damage, which is still nice. So yeah, it's kind of like an execution spell. We are getting another upgrade together with it down here, where Touch of Death increases your damage by 5% for 30 seconds after casting it, and its cooldown is reduced by 90 seconds. So that basically means now Touch of Death only has a 1.5 minute cooldown, but when you actually also uses it, it will increase your damage by 5%. So it's a very, very, very nice execute spell. You basically know when the boss becomes below under 50% health, the single button rotation will automatically use Touch of Death, and then you will now have for 30 seconds 5% more damage, which is quite nice. Then we also have Expel Harm's healing is increased by 5%, and critical strike chance is increased by 15%. So you might be thinking, Expel Harm, what ability is this? Why don't I see it in my spellbook? So the thing is, we have a talent over here called Combat Wisdom, which is actually replacing Expel Harm with a passive one, which I love, because Expel Harm is such an annoying spell. The tank has it, the healer has it, but I'm so glad the Windwalker doesn't have it, because it's just an annoying spell to use. So what happens is, when you use Expel Harm, expel negative chi from your body, healing for 400k on yourself, and dealing 10% of the amount heal as nature damage to an enemy within 20 yards. So it's a very nice quick self-heal and deals great damage also, but now it's a passive one. But how? So while out of combat, your chi balance to 2 instead of depleting to empty. So that basically means now you will always have 2 chi. So when you're out of combat, you will always go back to having 2 chi. You can see the chi up here above my head. You will always have 2 of them now. You would never go down to 0, which is going to help you a lot in your rotation, because now you could technically start the fight with using a Rising Sun Kick, or you could use a Tiger Palm, and you would have enough to already start out with a Fist of Fury. So it's just kind of like help you with rotation. But every 15 seconds, your next Tiger Palm also casts Expel Harm and deals 30% additional damage. So now Expel Harm, kind of like the Chi Wave over here, is automatically getting used every 15 seconds by Rising Sun Kick. Now we also have this one here, where every 15 seconds it will automatically be cast Expel Harm by Tiger Palm, which is quite nice. And now you have all these extra effects happening every 15 seconds from Rising Sun Kick and from Tiger Palm. So very nice, very, very, very nice. Then we have this one here, Yulon's Grace. So when you are in combat, it will slowly generate a magic shield for you that absorbs up to 0.6% of your max health, but only for like magic against magic attacks. And it will keep stacking every 3 seconds up to 6%. So I know mostly everyone uses diffuse magic, which is a cooldown you can use, which is going to reduce the magic damage you take by 60% for 6 seconds. Also, and transfer all currently active harmful magic effects on you back to the original caster if possible. I know this one here is a really strong cooldown that both reduces the magic damage but also casts harmful magic effects back to the original caster, to like the mobs that cast stuff on you. I know this one here is super powerful, but it's going to take up one more like action bar down here. It's going to add an additional cooldown you have to use in your rotation. You could of course macro it together with Fortifying Brew, and then technically it would not add one more button. So I would maybe recommend that if you actually take it, macro it together with Fortifying Brew. They have the same amount of cooldown, so it would actually make sense. But still, to make it easier for everyone who's using single button assistant, I thought it was more worth to take Yulon's Grace, even though I know not many people play with it. Basically, you will have a 6% magic shield all the time, taking magic damage. I feel like it's a cool talent. It's passive, you don't have to think about anything, where this one here you actively have to use an ability. So again, I know a lot of people is gonna be angry on me and saying, you need diffuse magic, it's so important. Yeah, but I mean, again, we are making builds for a single button assistant, so I think simplicity is fair enough in this build here. But again, it's up to you. You can go with this one here, you can go with this one here. That's your choice. Then we also have reduced the cooldown of Ring of Peace by 5 seconds. So now Ring of Peace, which is the main crowd control AoE ability, is now having, well, it's down on 45 seconds. So sorry, 40 seconds. But before it was 45 without this one here. Then we have Fortifying Brew. Turns your skin into stone for 15 seconds, increasing your current maximum health by 20 and reduce all damage you take by 20 as well. So very nice. It's kind of like a lifesaver. If you are like in a very bad situation, you use it, you become gray, you even like get a little bit bigger. I think you get a little bit bigger, right? Oh, I remembered wrong. Okay, you don't get bigger, you just become gray. I was thinking of Avatar Warrior. Yeah, my bad. So yeah, you just become gray and then you take like 20% reduced damage and you get 20% additional maximum health, which is nice. Then we also have Dance of the Wind. Your physical damage taken is reduced by 10% and additionally 10% every 4 seconds until you receive a physical attack. So imagine you will keep, well, the first physical attack that attacks you is going to reduce by 10%, but every 4 seconds it keeps stacking all the way up to 90%. So the first physical attack I will now receive is going to be reduced by 90%, and then it resets down to 0. And then every 4 seconds, it's going to go up to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. And then the next physical attack is going to hit me, is of course reducing again by 90. Of course, if I'm all the time getting attacked by a physical hit, it will only keep getting up to 10, reset, 10, reset, 10, you know. It's just like a very nice little. Now we both have this one here, which is going to reduce automatically magic damage taken, and now we have this one here, which is going to reduce automatically physical damage taken. So I just thought like it was really cool, like Ching Chang having these two. Ching Chang, did you see what I did there? Ching Chang, you know. Yeah, okay. Good joke, bad joke. So on. Then we have Strength of the Spirit. Expel Harm's healing is increased by up to 100% based on your missing health. So whenever you use your Tiger Palm every 15 seconds, it will cast Expel Harm. But now Expel Harm is going to heal you 100% additionally, up to based on your missing health. So of course, if you have like 1% health back, it's going to heal you way more, like up to 99% more. If you have like 50% health, it's going to heal you for 50% more. So basically it's just like going to heal you even more depending on how much, based on how much health you have. Then we also have Summon White Tiger statue. So when you use our main damage cooldown called Invoke Xuen, the White Tiger. When you actually use it, it's going to spawn a White Tiger statue at your location that pulses 50k damage to all enemies every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. Insane damage increaser. Usually we don't have that many like damage increasing stuff over here, but this one here is a killer. So we need that one. We need that one. So every time you use this cooldown, you're of course going to summon a tiger, but now also a statue, which is also dealing damage. Insane. Fortifying brew and reduce the cooldown by 30 seconds. Nice to have. Magical damage done is increased by 4, and all healing done is increased by 4. Just very nice. Then also, when a hit deals more than 12% of your maximum health, reduce all damage you take by 20% for 4 seconds, and this can only happen every 30 seconds. So basically, whenever you receive a damage attack that deals more than 12% of your maximum health, like in one go, it will then reduce all damage you take by 20% for 4 seconds and can happen every 30 seconds. Usually in mythic dungeons, delves, so on, we use this one here called Bounce Back, which is this one here. In raids, you actually use Windwalking, which is going to increase your speed and your allies within 10 yards by like movement speed by 4%. Because in raids, you are more often having to run around, like, you know, like there's way more like running around, positioning, and so on. So this one here is like helping you, because in mythic dungeons, you way often get more damage like received compared to in a raid where positioning can really help you. So default for my build here, I'm using Bounce Back in the dungeon build, and I'm using Windwalking in raid build. But it's up to you which one you better like. Then we also have Martial Instinct. So increase your physical damage done by 4 and avoidance increased by 4. So more damage and more avoidance. Can we actually see it here? Avoidance, reduce damage taken from area effects attacks. So basically AoE abilities. But yeah, now we have 4% more of that and 4% more physical damage. Then we also have lighter than air. So basically what this one here allows is that when you actually use roll, you can now do a double jump. So roll, double jump, roll, double jump. And now I was almost about to die. So basically, yeah, it's just like give you like a double jump after you're rolling. Okay, let me try this right. Like roll, double jump. And you have to use it in for the next 5 seconds after you have actually rolled. Very importantly. Then we have Flow of Chi. This one here gives different like effects to you based on your health. So when you are both like when you have between 90 and 100% health, your movement speed is increased by 5, and it can actually stack with other like effects. When you are between 90 and 35, your damage is taken. Basically the damage you take is reduced by 5%. Very nice. But below 35% health, healing received is increased by 10%. Also nice. And then we already talked about this one here, where when you actually use Touch of Death, it is also going to increase the damage you do by 5% for 30 seconds. So, and also reduces the cooldown on Touch of Death by 90 seconds. So, very nice. And Touch of Death is actually inside the single button rotation, which is very nice. So you don't even have to think about, using it when the target gets down to low HP. So that was the talent section here on the left side. Let's move on to the hero tree in the middle. All right, let's talk about the middle tree here, which is the Shadowban tree. First of all, we have something called Flurry Strikes. This one here is important. So every 550k damage you deal generates a charge of Flurry. For each 240 energy you spend, you unleash all Flurry charges, dealing 55k physical damage per charge. So basically, every time you do 550k damage, you get 1 charge of Flurry. When you actually have spent 240 energy, which of course is the energy you have up here, then you will unleash all the Flurry charges, and each of the charges is going to deal, it's going to deal 55k damage. To my understanding, when testing this, you can only get up to 10 Flurry charges. It stops there. You can see I have 10 right now after keeping doing damage. So you can see, even though if I keep doing damage, it will not go up beyond 10. So it seems like 10 is the highest one, and then you of course you can do the math. How much damage is that going to deal? 10 flurry charges, and each of them is going to deal 55k damage. Then, beside of that, we have here flurry strikes have a 15% additional chance to critical strikes, so this will actually have a high chance to do crit. Also, Vivify always heals you for an additionally 30% of its total value. So for example, when you heal someone else, it will usually heal them maybe 550k. I did a test, so I was like healing everyone else for 550k and myself for 700k. So it's a nice increase when you actually heal yourself. And since Vivify is going to be free to cast whenever we use Rising Sun Kick, so it's nice to just be able to do like a very big self-heal. Then also Flurry Strike increase your agility by 1% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. So when actually Flurry Strikes hits, and of course we're going to be using 10 at a time because we keep getting up to 10 stacks, it's going to use them. So this one here is technically always giving us like 10% additionally agility, which is quite nice. Then we also have striking the same target 5 times within 2 seconds, grant 1% haste, stacking up to 10 times. So yeah, if you keep attacking the same target, you will keep getting more haste and more haste. Then we also had damage dealt by Fist of Fury and Kick Smash. We don't have Kick Smash, that's for the tank build, but we have Fist of Fury. Damage dealt by Fist of Fury counts as double towards Flurry charge generation. So that basically means when you actually use Fist of Fury, which is a chi spender ability, it's only going to be like it's going to count as the damage, the damage that it's counting. So that means when we actually use Fist of Fury, it's going to help like getting up the charges of Flurry charging generation. So it's going to help like giving us even faster 10 charges of Fist to Flurry. Hope that makes sense. Then also it just passively increased Fist of Fury, damage is increased by 20, which is also quite good. Then also energy spenders deal an additionally 40% damage. So that means energy spenders is spells like Tiger Palm, which one do we have more? We have Crackling Jade Lightning. Those spells now deal 40% more damage because they are energy spenders. But also every 50 energy spent reduces the cooldown of Storm, Earth and Fire by 1 second, which is one of our cooldowns we're using where we kind of like split into 3 different elements and deal more damage. So yeah, I mean, so basically reducing the cooldown then, and also all the energies like the normal small spend abilities in the single one rotation is now dealing 40% more increased damage, which is quite nice. Then we also have Martial Precision. You're basically now penetrating 12% of the armor on the target you attack. So to my understanding, if I might be wrong, I actually haven't studied this, but your armor is reducing the damage you take. So you can see normally my physical damage reduction is 18% against some kind of like target. So for example, against this target here, for example, we can see this target here is reduced, like this target deals 26% less to me. Normally overall, it's 18%. To my understanding, this means I am ignoring 12% of that. So not, of course, I'm not, ignoring all the way down to if you remove like 12, like it's not going to ignore all the way down to like 6%. That's not what I'm saying. Because if you remove 12 from 18, then you get 6%. But that's not the point. It's basically you take 18 as the full number, and then you remove 12% of that. So it's probably more likely going to be like a 17 or between 16 and 17. So it's not much. It's basically just like, yeah, you're going to be dealing 1% more damage to a target, or at least 1% less in armor. You're going to deal more damage to the target, but you get the point. Then also we have Whirling Steel. When your health drops below 50% health, summoning, then you will summon a Whirling Steel, increasing your parry chance and avoidance by 15%. Basically just another like things that's going to try save you from dying. But it's going to only happen every 3 minutes. Then we also got this one here. Blackout Kick deals an additional 20% critical damage. So when it actually crits, it's going to deal 20% more damage in the crit. And also increases the damage of your next set of Flurry strikes by 10%. So when you actually use Blackout Kick, then the next time flurry strikes are going to attack, when you actually have spent the 240 energy, it's going to deal 10% increased damage, which is nice. And you're going to have this buff on all the time, because Blackout Kick is like one of the most usually spells we use in this rotation, so you're going to have this one on all the time, which is nice. Then we also have Wisdom of the Wall. This one here is very interesting. So basically, every 10 flurry strikes become infused with Wisdom of the Wall, gaining one of the following effects. So when you actually have 10 charges and they get used, like when you actually use those 10 charges and they go out and deal damage, you will get one of these 4 buffs randomly. It can either be critical strike damage is increased by 30, or dodge and critical strike chance increased by 25 of your versatility bonus, so also just increases your dodge or critical strike. Also, flurry strike flurry strikes deal 150k shadow damage to all uncontrolled enemies within 6 yards. Or effect of your mastery is increased by 25. But so every time you use 10 flurry strikes, it's just randomly gonna give you one of these buffs. And the icon you can see here, the wall icon, is going to be up your buffs, and you can have multiple of them, because every time you use 10 of these charges from flurry, it just keeps giving you random buffs, so you can end up like having 3 or 4 of these going on. So it's a fun little gimmick. But yeah, that was the hero tree in the middle. Let's move on to the Windwalker tree. So let's talk about the right side, the Windwalker tree. First of all, we have Fist of Fury, pummels all targets in front of you, dealing 800k physical damage to your primary target. That means the one you actually have target and the one you're standing in front of. But also, and 400k damage to all other enemies over 2.9 seconds. Will be dealing reduced damage when it's over 5 targets. Can even be channeled while moving. So actually, while you're moving, it can actually cast this one here, which is pretty cool. Then also momentum boost. Fist of Fury damage is increased by 100% of your haste, and Fist of Fury does 10% more damage each time it deals damage, resetting when Fist of Fury ends. Your auto attack speed is increased by 60% for 8 seconds after Fist of Fury ends. This is another important point on why haste is such an important stat for Windwalker Monks, because haste is now actually also increasing the damage of Fist of Fury. As you can see, it's increased damage by 100% of your haste, so the more haste you have, the more damage this spell is actually also doing now. And now it also deals more damage, like the more it actually attacks, it will deal like 10% increased damage all the time. And then of course it resets when it's done. So pretty cool, and again, a major key on why haste is so important for Windwalker Monk. I should probably have mentioned this on the stat page, but yeah, you get it now at least. Then we have this one here, Combat Wisdom, we already talked about. While out of combat, your chi balance is to 2 instead of 0, so you can see we always have 2 chi to start in combat, which is very nice, instead of starting from 0. Also, every 15 seconds, your next Tiger Palm also casts Expel Harm and deals 30% additional damage. So we don't have Expel Harm anymore as an active ability, it's now a passively one that automatically gets used by Tiger Palm, which is quite nice. And Expel Harm is a spell that heals you for 400k, and 10% of that healing is going to be damaging. So, very, very nice. Also, Rising Sun Kick increases the damage of your target, receives from you by 3% for 12 seconds, and multiple instances may overlap. So you can actually make it stack by using it more often, but this also means that it will not, it will not refresh the duration of the stack that is already on there. Like the first stack will still go off after 12 seconds, even though if you have 2 stacks on them. Then Tiger Palm is increased by 40% damage, so now we actually have increased damage from this one here, where it increases the energy spenders by 40%, but even we also have Tiger Palm increased by 40% additionally. So our Tiger Palm is actually a spell that deals quite a lot of damage when you think about it. It's just like an energy spender to get chi, so quite nice. We also have Blackout Kick, critical strike chance is increased by 10%, and the critical damage is increased by 18%. Also increase your maximum chi by 1, maximum energy by 20, and your energy regeneration by 10%. Critical strike chance increased by 2%. This effect is increased by 100 while soon the White Tiger is active. So you just always have 2% more crit, but now when you actually activate your Tiger, it will give you 4% instead. Also, Crane Vortex spinning crane kick damage is increased by 30 and its radius is increased by 15. So now it deals 30% more damage, but also it's in a 15% larger area, like when you actually spin. We also have Teaching of the Monastery. This one here is, I remember it as like this was a thing that only healer monks like Mistweaver had, but we have it also down in the Windwalker tree. Tiger Palm causes your next Blackout Kick to strike an additionally time stack up to 4 times. Blackout Kick has a 12% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Rising Sun Kick. So basically, every time you use Tiger Palm, it keeps giving you a stack. Then eventually when you use Blackout Kick, it will actually, depending on how many stacks you have, it will deal additionally Blackout Kicks. So for example, if you just use 4 times Tiger Palm, then your next Blackout Kick is going to deal additionally 4 times damage. So you're going to actually be like, kicking 5 times, which is pretty cool. Kind of like, one of those samurai ninja moves where they just like, very quickly kick with their leg. And then it also has this one here where Blackout Kick has a 12% chance to reset the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick, and each of those 5 Blackout Kicks you're gonna shoot out with maximum stacks is actually having 12%, 12%, 12%, 12%. So the chance of you to resetting the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick is gonna be huge now with this one here, which is very cool. Rising Sun Kick has a chance to equal of 100% of your haste to trigger a second time, dealing 272k physical damage and restoring 1 chi. So now, even haste is also going to increase the chance of Rising Sun Kick to, do a second attack, dealing almost 300k damage and giving 1 chi. So again, another very important point on why haste is such a good thing. You might want to say, is haste really like the best one? Well, kinda, because mastery is also increasing all the damage we do, just like all the time, like by a lot. Because you can see here, we currently have 46% mastery, which means all my abilities is now dealing 46% more damage whenever we not use the same abilities. So mastery is also just like a quite good key. So yeah, mastery haste should go in hand. If you of course could get an item that has a lot of haste and a lot of mastery at the same time, that would be perfect scenario. Yeah. Then we have Jaden Ignition. I think that's how you say it. Whenever you deal damage to a target with Fist of Fury, you gain a stack of chi energy to a maximum of 30 stacks. Using Spinning Crane Kick will cause the energy to detonate in a chi explosion, dealing 180k nature damage to all enemies within 8 yards, reduced beyond 5 targets. The damage is increased by 5% for each stack of chi energy. So basically, whenever you deal damage to a target with Fist of Fury, it keeps giving you a charge of this chi energy. And then the next time you use Spinning Crane Kick, no matter how many charges you have, it will always deal an explosion that deals 180k damage. But the more stacks you have, this 180k damage is increased by 5% up to 30 times. Like, you can have 30 stacks, where each of the stacks deal 5% more damage. So very, very nice. But it's just like a very nice AoE ability. Then we also have Courageous Impulse. So this one here can be super confusing for people because, I used so much time to understand what the hell this was. So it says here, the Blackout Kick effect also increases the damage of your next Blackout Kick by 350%, which is insane, like 350% more damage from Blackout Kick. But what is this Blackout Kick effect? Where does it come from? And if you search for it, you will not find it. If you go into your spellbook and search for it, you will not find it. What it actually is this one here. And it's such convoluted. Like, they have really tried to hide this effect. Like, they have given you zero chance to understand where it comes from. So basically, Combo Breaker, you have an 8% chance when you Tiger Palm. So when you actually use Tiger Palm on your target, there's an 8% chance to cause your next Blackout Kick to cost no chi for 15 seconds. So whenever you use Tiger Palm, there's an 8% chance that your next Blackout Kick is going to be free to use for 15 seconds. When this happens, you can see, when you can actually just like go to dummy and keep spamming Tiger Palm, then you will see you get the effect. You will have like a blackout kick icon up here, and that one is actually going to be called the blackout kick, and then a like explanation mark. But now, when this effect actually happens, then our blackout kick is actually going to deal 350% more damage, which is insane. Can you imagine combining it together with this one here? Like, I'm not sure like if all the 5 charges actually gets the effects of it, but at least, like, you know, still 350% more damage. Like, wow. Then we have Storm, Earth, and Fire. This one here also confuses a lot of people. So basically, you're going to split into 3 elements. So you're going to be into like a, what is it? Like it says here, Earth, Fire, and so you, well, okay, let me just take it. You split into 3 elemental spirits for 15 seconds, each spirit dealing 40% normal damage and healing. You directly control the Storm spirit, while Earth and Fire spirits mimic your attacks on nearby enemies. Yeah, so you will be the Storm spirit, and then you have Earth and Fire that is next to you. While active, casting Storm, Earth, and Fire again will cause the spirits to fixate on your target. Let me try explain this, because that was super confusing. When you use it here, you can see here, you become basically 3 targets here. The Storm, the Earth, and the Fire. When you start attacking just randomly a mob now, they will also just attack whatever target they want. Like they will basically just attack whoever they want to attack, which of course is fine. You could technically keybind it out again here, and when you then use it, you can see now becomes an arrow. That means you are telling them you have to attack this one here. Only attack this one here. You only have to do this if you want to like be able to control that they actually should attack that target. If you don't, because the single button assistant is not going to do that for you. It will just use it one time, and then they will just attack random targets, which of course can be fine. Like, I mean, that's no problem in that. But maybe you want to have like the control over it. But again, that's not the point. What happens is you split into 3 elements. Each of the elements, including yourself, is dealing 40% of the damage you normally do. If you combine that damage into one, it's actually 120. So that means you're actually not going to deal less damage. You're going to be dealing more damage now, because normally you deal your own damage, which is 100%. Now you're going to be 40, 40, 40, which is 120. So technically, on paper, when you use this one here, you deal 20% more damage. That's actually it. You just deal 20% more damage. Of course, if you don't use it again, where you are saying only attack this target together with me, then they will split out, and whenever you use abilities, they will also use your abilities. So potentially, you could be using spinning crane kicks like different places, hitting more targets. So it's kind of up to you if you want to just use the normal single button system, where it also like it sends them out to random location. They will just attack whatever mob they feel like, or you can keybind it down, like somewhere, like wherever, and then you can control who they should attack. It's up to you. But yeah, this one here can be hard to understand, but you're basically summoning 2 additionally of yourself, and each of you, including yourself, and the one you summon is dealing 4% of your damage, and that goes into 120 in total. So just letting you know. I hope this one makes sense now. Then we have hit combo, very important one. We have our mastery. Every time we deal damage with a different spell than what we just used, when we're not repeating the previous ability, you will deal 46% more damage. When we have this one here, now each time you actually do this successfully, not repeating the spell, you will now get 1% increased damage, and this effect increases up to 5 times. And the cool thing is that the single button assistant automatically does this. As you can see here, we have the buff up here. It never breaks it. Not from the test I've done, it never breaks it. You can see it's now on 5 stacks, and it will keep being on 5 stacks. It will never get down because it keeps using different abilities. I was really afraid when I was making this build here that the Blizzard hadn't thought about that it actually should not use the same spell repeatable. Because then it wouldn't really work, this build here. Or this entire spec. You couldn't use single button assistant because the entire mastery would just be broken. but they actually managed to do it. It doesn't repeat the same spell. It keeps using different spells all the time, which is very nice. So this one here is basically just one that keeps giving us 5% more increased damage, which is quite nice. Yeah. Then we have Dance of Chi. Spending Chi has a chance to make your next spinning crane kick free and deal additionally 200% more damage. Very nice. Then every 2 Chi you spend, reduce the cooldown of Storm, Earth and Fire by 0.5 seconds. Very nice. Then Blackout Kick increases damage of your next Tiger Palm by 8%, stacking up to 30 times. Very nice. So when this actually happens, where we are kicking 5 times, well, it just keeps increasing the damage of our Tiger Palm by like 5 stacks, and each of the stacks is 8%, and of course it can go up to 30, which is very nice. Blackout Kick damage is increased by 10% and strikes additionally 2 targets at 80% effectiveness. Of course, this one here is not one we're using in the raid. As you can see here, the raid build here doesn't use this one here because it would make sense to use it against a raid boss because, you know, we're not going to attack multiple targets. Instead, up here, we're using this one here, Drinking Horn Cover. The duration of Storm, Earth and Fire is extended by 0.25 for every Chi you spend. Because, see, the thing is, when you are in a dungeon, you kind of want to be able to use your cooldowns way more often. But in a raid, you want your cooldown to stay longer. I hope it makes sense. Dungeons, you kind of want to use it on every big pool. Raid, you want to use it on the bosses. The boss fights can be long, they can take 10-20 minutes. So you of course want your cooldown to stay even longer. Also in the raid build up here, you can see up here, if we just like, you can see the switches here. Here, we are also removing this one here, called Jade Ignition. This one here that was making your spinning crane kick to explode. And what it takes instead here is this one over here. Ordered elements. During Storm, Earth and Fire, Chi costs are reduced by 1, and Blackout Kick reduces the cooldown affected by ability. And Blackout Kick reduces the cooldown of affected abilities by an additionally 1 second. Activating Storm, Earth and Fire resets the remaining cooldown of Rising Sun Kick and grants 2 Chi. So again, another one that just makes the entire rotation more smoothly against the boss. Like you can just imagine, like with all the reduced Chi and so on, this one here is just gonna make, again, the flow on a boss fight so much better. But the sacrifice of all the AoE abilities is not worth it. This one here is not worth it when you combine, because again, this one here is one that only makes you stronger when you have this one active, Storm, Earth and Fire. Where, for example, this one here is one that can keep giving us more damage on multiple mobs. So again, it makes sense why we are having this one in dungeon build, and it makes sense why we have this one in the raid build. Beside that, of course, we also have this one Blackout Kick here, which we're using in the dungeon build, but in the raid build, instead we are using this one here in the top right corner here, called Brawler's Intensity. The cooldown of Rising Sun Kick is reduced by 1%, and the damage of Blackout Kick is increased by 12. Another one that is just about, like, you know, dealing more damage quickly to the target you are attacking, which is making sense to have in the raid build, but in the dungeon build, it just makes so much more sense to have this one over here. But rest down here is actually the same, except this one here, Soon's Battle Gear. Rising Sun Kick Critical Strike reduces the cooldown of Fist of Fury by 4 seconds. When Fist of Fury ends, the critical strike chance of your of Rising Sun Kick is increased by 40 for 5 seconds. Again, Fist of Fury is a really, like, it's a great spell to use in a dungeon where you have multiple targets and multiple mobs and so on. But again, in a raid, it's not that important. You rather want to have these 4 here compared to having this one here, this one here, this one here. And that's actually, you can see we have this one here, this one here, this one here, which we're getting. And in the dungeon build, we have this one here, this one here, and this one here. This one doesn't count because it's just basically changing over. So 3 AoE abilities or 2 free, like, kind of like single target abilities. So that's like the difference between the raid build and the dungeon build. Very small change, but just some passive stuff. So yeah, nothing big, but it still will give you that little extra crispy damage in a raid or dungeons. But keep in mind, use the dungeon build for any content in the game. Use the raid build for only raids. So raid build, raids only, dungeon build for anything else. Delves, dungeon, whatever. Where did we actually come to? This one here. And then we came to this one here. Then we have the White Tiger. Summon an effigy of Xuen, the white tiger, for 20 seconds. Xuen attacks your primary target and strikes 3 enemies within 10 yards every 0.7 seconds with Tiger Lightning for 23k damage. So basically it strikes the target, but it also strikes 3 enemies within 10 yards with like this lightning beam. Like it both does like single target damage to the target, but it also keeps like doing lightning damage to around you. As well, we're not done. Every 4 seconds, Xuen strikes your enemies with Empowered Tiger Lightning, dealing 8% of the damage you have dealt to those targets in the last 4 seconds. So all the damage you just have done, 8% of that is also getting attacked additionally every 4 seconds from the tiger. So it does quite like insane amount of damage overall. So very nice. Then you have a 100% chance to gain Blackout Kick after consuming Dance of Chi. Again, this is one is the, you can see this here is the one that is called Blackout Kick exclamation mark. Like, you know, it's yelling Blackout Kick. This is the one we got from this one here, Combo Breaker. So whenever you have a 100% chance to gain Blackout Kick after consuming Dance of Chi-Chi. Dance of Chi-Chi was this one here. So spending Chi has a chance to make your next spinning crane kick free and deal additional 200 damage. So now we can both get this effect here, you know, where we're dealing 350% more damage. We can both get that one from spamming Tiger Palm, but we can also now get it from the spinning crane kick when it actually uses this effect. Like, you know, whenever you use Chi, it has a chance to make your next spinning crane kick free and deal 200% more damage. When you use this effect, then you also get the Blackout Kick, which increases the damage of Blackout Kick by 350%. So good to know, very important to know. Then also you gain 50% haste for 20 seconds after summoning your Celestial. So when we actually summon the Celestial, we gain 50% more haste, which is nice because, you know, it's going to make the entire rotation more smooth. It's also going to make a bigger chance for your Rising Sun Kick to deal double damage. And also it's going to increase the damage of Fist of Fury. Very nice. Then with your auto attacks has a 20% chance to instead kicking your target, dealing 120k physical damage and increase your damage dealt by 5% for 5 seconds. So every time you do the auto attack, you actually have a chance to like do a kick instead, which deals quite a lot of damage and increases the damage you do for 5 seconds. Quite nice. Chi Spenders increase the damage of your next Crackling Jade Lightning by 400% and reduce its cost by 5%, stacking up to 20 times. This one here is crazy, like the number is such a crazy number. So you can basically have 20 charges of this one here, and it can go, and every charge is 400%. It is so crazy. So like 400% at 20, it's like 8,000% more damage. So normally, Crackling Jade-like is dealing 3.1 million damage or 1 point. Oh wait, no, I already have like, yeah, that was like, it normally deals 39k damage. I had a full stack of 20 stacks, and what did I just say? Like that was like insane amount of more damage. Did I say 3.9 or 3.1 or something like that? Or what was it, 1.3? Whatever I just said. You know, go back 10 seconds and see what I said. But now it's basically going to increase the damage of our Crackling Jade Lightning for, you know, like so much more. This is also automatically handled by the single button assistant. It will automatically use Crackling Jade Lightning when you have this one here on 20 charges. So don't worry, it automatically does it. We also have Whirling Dragon Punch, a very powerful attack. Perform a devastating whirling upward strike, dealing 500k damage to all nearby enemies and additionally 300k to the first target struck. Damage reduced beyond 5 targets. And the funny thing with this one here, which is another thing why I was a bit hating playing Windwalker, but again, this one here is a thing we don't have to think about anymore. Only usable while both Fist of Fury and Rising Sun Kick are on cooldown. So when those two spells are on cooldown, then we can actually use this one here. Again, another super weird mechanic. But again, single button assistant is taking care of this, so don't think about it anymore. It's going to be very relaxing playing this build now. Rising Sun Kick critical strike reduces the cooldown of Fist of Fury by 4 seconds. When Fist of Fury ends, the critical strike chance of Rising Sun Kick is increased by 40% for 5 seconds. Very nice. Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick. and Spinning Crane Kick increase the damage dealt by your next Fist of Fury by 3%, stacking up to 10 times. Also, Crackling Jade Lightning now changed to 4 additional targets at 80% effectiveness, and its channel time is reduced by 50%. So now it actually deals the same amount of damage, but 50% faster, and it actually attacks 4 additional targets for 80% of the damage. Crazy. Also, Whirling Dragon Punch has a 100% chance to activate Dance of Chi, and its cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds. So, hang in here. Now, when you use Whirling Dragon Punch, it's going to activate a Dance of Chi, which is going to make your next Spinning Crane Kick deal 200% more damage, and it's free. And this one here is going to activate our Blackout Kick bonus, which is going to make Blackout Kick dealing 350% more damage. So you can kind of see like a synergy between this one here, to this one here, to this one here, to this one here. Very nice. And as well, this one here is very fun. Your combo strike, so every time you do another spell, every time you not use the same spell, every time you do not repeat a spell, which is the mastery and this one here, it gives you a stack of 1% to make your next Fist of Fury to grant you 3% crit, 3% haste, 3% mastery, and also summon your tiger for 10 seconds. So, every time you use a different spell where your mastery gets happy, you keep increasing the chance by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think it can even go up to 100%. And then whenever you use a Fist of Fury, it's going to use the stacks here to kind of like, rolling a dice. And then if it wasn't 70%, then next time you use your Fist of Fury, it has a 70% chance to use this stack and do all these cool things, give you 3% more all secondary stats, and also summon your tiger for 10 seconds. Most of the time when it happens for me, I need to get it like up to 40%, and then it actually happens. But I mean, technically, you could be lucky and already get it at 5%, technically. But yeah, just letting you know. But it's a super cool thing that just passively happens. So if sometimes your tiger gets out and you're like, but I didn't press my tiger cooldown, it's this one here. Don't worry. It just passively summons the tiger all the time. But it also makes the build even more fun because you're going to have your tiger out a lot of the times because you just randomly get summoned. So yeah. But again, the raid build, very focused on single target. Dungeon build, focused on getting damage out to everyone around you. That was the talents. Alright, let's talk about the rotation. So, the professional rotation that most websites recommend would be using Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, Tiger, Earth, then Storm, Earth, and Fire. The problem is we cannot do that because the single button rotation doesn't allow us to do that. It will first use Storm, Earth, and Fire, and then of course it's going to start using the normal rotation, like from all the spells they can use: Blackout Kick, Jade Lightning, Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kick, Spinning Crane Kick, Storm, Earth, and Fire, Tiger Palm, Touch of Death, Whirling Dragon Punch. So it will do its own rotation, which is still strong. It's still a very, very good rotation. It does. But we're just not able to do the opener that most people recommend, because those spells that we would normally use in the start is going to trigger like a lot of like different spells, like Expel Harm. It's going to trigger spells like those haste effects we can get, and it's going to trigger like Chi Wave. So we're just going to wait with that. You could of course keybind those two other spells to like have a good opener, but again, what's the point of using rotate like single button assistant if you start anyway putting out all your keybinds to have a good opener? So my recommendation would be, we're going to use the tiger, we're going to be using our number 1, but it's going to need to be fast, because if you summon the tiger, if I click on this one here and I summon the tiger, it's going to spawn the tiger on top of the mob. It's going to deal damage to it, but it's going to run back to you because it's like, hey, am I supposed to attack this one? Why are you not attacking? So you need to attack the target as well, like with actually abilities, not just auto attack. You need to attack the target with abilities to it to understand I need to attack the target. So what you're going to do is you're going to be using number 2 to summon your tiger on an opener, and then you're going to be pressing 1 quick, because number 1 first is only going to be summoning Storm, Earth, and Fire. That is still not going to attack. You're still going to not be attacking. Then, after Storm, Earth, and Fire, it's actually going to use a spell that attacks where both of them attack. So you can see, first I summon the tiger, Storm, Earth, and Fire, no one still attacks. Then I press 1, And now they start attacking, if I actually put my pet on attack mode. So you gotta summon Tiger, Storm Earth and Fire, and then attack. Technically, you could also press 1 and 2 at the same time because they don't use global cooldowns, those 2 cooldowns. So you could actually press 1 and 2 at the same time if you wanted. I think I would prefer pressing 2 first and then 1. But it's up to you. You could technically press 1 and 2. You might be asking now, I know someone is going to ask me, couldn't you just macro these 2 together so we all use them together? I wouldn't recommend that, because can you imagine you are fighting some mobs just before the boss and it uses your Tiger just before the boss? I mean, that would be such a waste of a strong cooldown. So keep the Tiger on number 2 and your single button rotation. So what you're going to do is, again, if this was a boss, I would start with using my 2, and then I will start spamming 1. I mean, it's not more technical than most of our, like the demonology war, like I showed you recently. There, you had to first get up some pets, you had to summon an army, and then use your number 2. But with the Windwalker Monk, we actually just use number 2 ASAP, and then spam 1. So what the rotation would look like is, you get close to your target, you press 2 to summon the Tiger, and then you just spam 1 to actually start the rotation. And it's very important that you kind of don't use the Tiger in a good time before you get to the boss, because that's just going to waste time where the Tiger is going to stand at the boss and run back to you. So, kind of wait till, you can use your roll to get over there, and then you summon your Tiger and start spamming 1, because if you summon the Tiger and you don't spam 1, the Tiger's not going to attack your target. So it's very important you get to your target, and again, let me try do here. So okay, so we get to the target, summon the Tiger, press 1 very quickly, and start attacking, and start spamming 1. Now automatically we summon the Tiger. You could press 1 ASAP or at the same time to summon both things at the same time, and then it's very important you start your rotation by pressing 1. I know I might sound like I make it sound stressful, but it's not. It's not really. It's super simple and easy, because you just, on your opener, you just have to use both your cooldowns on the opener. So that's basically it. Press 1 and 2. You can even press 1 and 2 at the same time, like boom, 1 and 2, and then you just start spamming 1. That's it. That's pretty much it. So it's definitely one of the most cleanest, simple rotation I have done for the single button rotations, because the other ones had spells where you sometimes have to use them and sometimes you need to wait and so on. But here, press 1 and 2, boom, get in action, start attacking, so on, so on, so on. Another important fact is that some people prefer to be able to, so when you summon these from Storm, Earth and Fire, they will attack random targets. If you prefer them to attack the same target as you, so you all deal like most damage to that target you're targeting, to kill that target as fast as possible, you need to keybind down Storm, Earth and Fire somewhere additionally on your keybinds, because when you have summoned them, the spell is going to be replaced by an attack spell where you're basically telling your spirits to attack the same target as you. So you could ignore it, because of course against the boss, they all gonna attack the boss no matter what. But if you are in a situation like this with 3 different mobs, you could risk one of them is attacking this one here, one is attacking this one here, and you're gonna attack this one here. But then if you use the Storm Earth and Fire ability again at the same time, you're gonna tell them, no, attack this one here. We want to kill this one here first. So it's kind of like a way of you where you can control, should they attack the same target as you, or is it allowed to like attack whoever they want? Me personally, I don't care too much about it. I'm just gonna, again, I'm just gonna go to the target, press 1 and 2 at the same time, and then just press 1, like, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I know we could min-max by using, like, keybinding them again, but again, then we get into the point of why we're using the single button system if we keep getting down spells to help our rotation. So me personally, I would prefer just doing it this way here. You might also have noticed that I'm using a macro for my single button assistant. The reason for why that is because we have 2 channeling spells. We have Fist of Fury, which is our first channeling spell. This one here takes 3 seconds to channel. Your single button resistant, if you keep pressing 1, is going to cancel it. So it's basically going to cancel your Fist of Fury while it's dealing damage. And this spell here deals a lot of damage, so you don't want to cancel it. So very importantly, we're gonna putting a macro here called cast. It's gonna call. I'm gonna have it. By the way, this is gonna be in the Discord as well. So if you go to the Discord, the macro stats, talents, anything is gonna be over there. So don't worry. But basically, we're gonna have a macro here saying cast no channeling. So that means when it's not allowed to use the spell when it's channeling Fist of Fury, and also no channeling Crackling Jade Lightning, then it's not allowed to use single button assistant. So I'm saying when these two abilities are channeled, like when they actually are in the work, you're not allowed to use single button assistant. So basically what it's going to look like is this spell down here is going to become a question mark, just like a question mark. And then when it's done channeling, when it's done actually using Fist of Fury or Jade Crack Lightning, it's going to go back to its normal icon. But it just makes sure that you can sit down, relax, have a good time, you know, and then just press 1 without actually interrupting some of your important abilities. So that's why I use this macro here. But again, it's going to be in my Discord, so you can just like copy paste it and throw it directly into your game. I also have another video that shows how to make macros in case you need that. So, I mean, basically, that's the entire rotation. You go to the mob, you press 1 and 2, and then you just spam 1, and you have fun. Very quickly, 1 and 2, to summon both your Storm and Fire, to summon your Tiger, and you spam 1. That's it. You never have to think about your combos, that you're using the same spell in row. All the passives we have in this tree here, don't have to worry about it. It's all going to be automatically used. Of course, every time we use Rising Sun Kick, we can use our healing for free, which can, like you saw that, 2 million healing. Very nice. So that's another very nice thing. And as you can see here, I have all these things to track my cooldown over here, so I can still see what happens. This I'm using options, gameplay, and this one here called Enable Cooldown Manager. And if you import the same UI as me, I have the UI on my Discord as well, you can see they're like placed over here very nicely. So very nicely. We could also go in here and actually add, for example, we could add, what is it called? That one, it's called Vivification. I don't know if they actually have added it into the game, but it would be a nice thing to like add to it. So Vivification, and actually it doesn't look like they have added it. I hope that's something they do, but for now they haven't added it, so we cannot actually track that spell yet. But it would be nice if we could track that healing spell to see whenever we can use the healing one, but it hasn't added it yet, so we cannot track that one yet. They keep adding more spells in here every day. All right. So as a tradition, I always go through my other spells down here. So you have like if you're new to this game here, new to this class, you actually also know what the other spells are doing. Number 3, of course, number 2 is our cooldown we're using. So yeah, of course, number 2 is our main cooldown we're using for dealing a lot of damage. We use it on like whenever you pull a boss or whenever you pull like a big group of monsters that needs to die, like, you know, important pulls. Not just on like 2 random trash mobs you need to kill before the boss. Number 3 is our healing spell. It takes 1.1 second to cast it. It heals quite a lot on yourself, even more on, well, it heals most on yourself and a little bit less on other people. And whenever you are using Rising Sun Kick, it becomes instant cast and healing even more and cost less. Number 4 is our main interruption spell. So if this mob here was casting a spell, we would use number 4 to interrupt it, so it stops casting that spell. So, and this one actually works on bosses as well, where our 3 other interrupting spells up here, they don't work on bosses. Then we also have Roll, very nice spell you can use to like roll around, can help you getting out of fire, getting to places faster, and so on and so on. Then you can see we have the transfer spell here, Transcendence Transfer, but before you can use that one here, you need to use your Q first. So for example, you could go here, use your Q, Transcendence. Now, whenever I press my number 6, I'm gonna swap location with my Transcendence over there. So imagine something very big is gonna happen here, like something that's gonna kill me, then I can press 6, and I get out of there. So a very nice position spell. And now next time I press 6, it's gonna be over there, or I could spawn it again over here. So that's my number 6 spell here, Transcendence Transfer and Transcendence. So basically these 2 here works together. Then we also have Tiger's Lust. It's the spell that makes you run 70% faster, and it removes all snares and roots. Very, very nice spell. Also, we have Flying Serpent Kick. It's an interesting spell, but when you use it, you're gonna like fly through the air. If used again while active, you will land, reducing the movement speed of enemies within 8 yards by 70%. So you can see when you actually use it, you can flow, but you can also use it again. Like you could actually use it to stop it, and it would slow whoever mobs that was like close to you. Yeah. Then we have Fortifying Brew, making you gray and also making increase your HP by 20%, and also reduce all damage you take by 20%, kind of making you like into stone. Also, very importantly, we have Touch of Karma, which is such an overpowered spell. I love that spell. Absorb all damage taken for 10 seconds, up to 50% of your maximum health, and redirect 70% of that damage to the enemy target as nature damage over 6 seconds. This one here is so powerful because basically when you are actually using it against mobs that are attacking you, for example, if you have like a boss or something like that attacks you, it could be like anything, like a boss that attacks you, big AoE attack, anything. When you actually then uses Touch of Karma, it's gonna absorb that damage and then it's gonna redirect it back like as a damage. So you can see here, for example, if I use it now, you can see now here, if I use it now and keep damaging, it absorbs now all the damage I take, but it gives it back to the target. So it's something that is really nice. You can see like all the damage it does now. It's like, look at that. It's like, yeah, 200k back all the time to the target. So it's just like, it's a nice spell that both helps you because it absorbs like all the damage you take up to 50% of your maximum health. So if you have 10 million HP, it's going to absorb 5 million HP, and 70% of that damage you absorbed goes back, attacks, deal damage. So it's a very nice spell that both like helps you but also deals damage. So technically you could say this one here could be a part of your rotation, but I mean it only really works when you actually take damage, and I mean you're not a tank, so you're not going to take damage all the time, you know what I mean. Then we have our 3 crowd control spells. If, for example, we have multiple enemies like casting spells and we want to interrupt them, then you can use a Ring of Peace. It's going to push them all out to the side. It doesn't work on these because they are, you cannot move these. But normal mobs, they would be like pushed out to the sides, and it would stop them all, it will interrupt them all in casting. We also have Leg Sweep, also stunning all of them, so they also stop casting. And then we also have Paralysis, which would basically paralyze it for 1 minute, so it cannot attack, cannot move, or it stopped casting. But whenever you attack it again, it kind of like, you can see like it goes off again. So yeah, but you can either use it in 2 situations: to paralyze a mob for 1 minute if you don't want to fight that one and fight another mob at the same time. So kind of like pause him and fight this one here and then continue with the other one. Or if they're casting a spell and you don't have, for example, your number 4, 1, or 2, you can then paralyze the target. It can be used like in different scenarios. So that was the rotation. Now we have back the gameplay session in the dungeon, and we have back the the summary we're gonna end with. So let's move on. All right, here we go. Let's see how much damage this Spec can do. Starting out, just pressing 1. So far, so good. Able to keep up with the entire team. It looks like from HP base that we all have the same amount of gear. So it looks like we are all the same, like equal in gear. So I mean, so far I'm top DPS, which is quite nice. Because you can see in the HP that it's a heroic dungeon, and it seems like we all have the same amount of gear based on the HP. I still haven't used my ultimate cooldown. I'm kind of saving it. I mean, I could be using it already now, but yeah, I don't know. I just like to save it. But now you can see like a very fun example of where single button assisted does so much more damage, because my Spec doesn't care about stress or like you not really know what you have to do. it just keeps outputting the best damage it can do. Where the other people, they might be holding a little bit back, or they might be thinking about what should I do now. This one here just damage. We can use my tiger now. Look at that damage because of the tiger. Yeah, I think I like this spec here. Seems like a very strong spec together with the single button assistant. So far, I'm very, very impressed and very happy with the damage. And of course, for this video here, we are currently using the dungeon build, because we want to be able to hit as many targets as possible. Oh, tank is going crazy. Let's give him an instant heal. Let's stun all of them, just to help him get some life. Because when you use the stun leg sweep, it literally stuns them all for 1 to 3 seconds, and it can do so much for your tank. I see the Death Knight. He this time with that many mobs, he actually did more damage than us. Still, we did decent amount of damage. Could use my Tiger Lust. What the hell? We're gonna be using Tiger and then using our rotation. I'm gonna use Touch of Karma and stay in the AoE. See, this is one of the things I talked about with Touch of Karma. So, Touch of Karma absorbs 5 million damage and it gives the damage back to the caster. So now, I absorbed everything from that AoE attack, but at the same time I did so much damage back to the boss. So that's why I really think Touch of Karma is such a fun spell that you should be using in your rotation as well. If you can see like they're gonna spawn some kind of like fire on the ground or something like that, I mean, seriously, use Touch of Karma and stand in it, and it's gonna just help you with additional damage. So far so good. I mean, we're doing quite an amount of damage at this boss here, even though we single target. And I mean, we haven't. Yeah, that was actually quite good. Let's help with a stun. That Death Knight, he is very happy when there's a lot of mobs. Like when there's between like, I don't know, 3 and 5 mobs, then I Supreme do more damage than him. But the moment that there's like more than 10 mobs, he gets crazy strong. So I don't know if you noticed it, but now every time they casted AoE spells on the ground, I didn't move because I used Touch of Karma again. So I absorbed all the damage, but at the same time I did like okay damage. For some reason it wasn't the damage meter. I'm gonna save my Tiger because there's gonna be a boss in like 10 seconds. So I think it's more worth to like save the Tiger for that. And I'm already winning the DPS race on this one here, so keep in mind you don't have to be a person who keeps looking at the damage meter and, you know, think about, am I doing the most damage? I'm purely only doing it for this video here, you know, just to see how much damage we can do with this spec here. When I play normally, I wouldn't think about it. I'll use my number 2, my number 1. And when I get my Touch of Karma ready, I'm gonna use it when he actually does some kind of like AoE ability. Like now, I'm actually gonna be standing in his AoE damage. Yeah, as you can see, I was standing inside it just to absorb as much as possible. Now my Touch of Karma is done, so I cannot stand at that one. The Death Knight is really good at like doing like very quick burst whenever we start, and then whenever we get like to the end, I always get him. That's really funny that he actually he starts with a really hard burst, but then I slowly come up on him. Here you can see Touch of Karma actually did 7th most damage, actually 5 million damage it did, which is insane. So Touch of Karma is such an important spell to use, and it's so fun because it allows you to literally stand in the stuff that, you know, normally hurts. So for 5 million damage you can stand in stuff that hurts, and then all the damage, like 70% of the damage, goes back to the caster. So you should really, really be using it. I don't know, I don't think I talked enough of Touch of Karma in the rotation, but hopefully people are gonna watch this gameplay session here so they can see how important it is. But I think you all are gonna have so much fun with this spec here, because with the single button system we don't have to think about anymore, you know, with the combo. I'm gonna use Touch of Karma again. Basically gonna stand in the shit now. And the cool thing is, like, you can see when you not have Touch of Karma anymore, because when you have Touch of Karma on, you're not taking damage. You're just like passively, you know, you're not like not taking damage. But the moment you can see your health bar actually moving again, that means Touch of Karma is done. On this very, very big pool here, I use my Tiger, because the Tiger does insane amount of AoE damage. So on this one here, it was very like, yeah, I think like it was a very good idea to use it. But I help with a stun. Oh, gonna interrupt those healers. Like, honestly, normally I would never consider Monk Windwalker as a main, but I gotta admit, with this spec here and the single button system, I am close to consider it. This is actually quite a nice build. I'm gonna stand in the fire again now, using Touch of Karma, giving all the night. Like, look at that! Very quickly, it absorbed all the damage and gave it right back in her face. I wish my Tiger was ready now. That would have been so good. I'm gonna use my fortifying brew. There we go. That was fun, and look at that. So much damage. And again, Touch of Karma did almost 4 million damage because I was standing in her AoE. But yeah, such a crazy spec. I really enjoyed that. So that was the gameplay part. If I haven't convinced you now that this spec here is a killer spec, yeah, I don't know what to do then. But yeah, that was actually most of the video. Let's do the last part now, which is the summary. So, welcome to the quick summary. Maybe you have skipped the entire video to watch this party, or maybe you watched the entire thing and now you're just catching up with me on this one here. First of all, we're going to talk about the stats. You're going to have first agility, then mastery, then haste. Mastery and haste is both equal strong. Both of them is really, really good. Mastery is basically increasing the damage of all your attack. The mastery requires you to actually use a second, like you're not allowed to repeat the abilities. That's why Windwalker Monk can be a bit hard to play, because you're not allowed to use the same ability after each other. You need to keep using a new ability all the time to trigger the mastery. But single button assistant does that for you, so don't worry about that. Then we have haste that basically makes our abilities, speed up the energy regeneration, reduce cooldown on Fist of Fury, Rising Sun Kick, Whirling Dragon Punch, and making the rotation more smooth, lower global cooldown. And even more importantly, if I get this one down, we have actually two. We have this one here, where Fist of Fury deals more damage the more haste you have. And we have this one here, where Rising Sun Kick have a chance to deal additionally Rising Sun Kicks, again, the more haste you have. So more haste, increase the damage of Fist of Fury, and Rising Sun Kick has a chance to do double damage whenever, the more haste you also have. So haste is such a good thing. So again, haste and mastery equal good same. So if you can try and get it, you always try to get an item that has both haste and mastery. Then we have versatility and critical strike, not that important. Versatility increases the damage you do, the healing you do, and the damage it reduces the damage you take. Not important so much. Of course, if you get an item that has higher eye level, then it's still better. And then critical strike, not really good for this build here, but it's still fine. Your highest priority should always be to get the highest upgrade level of an item. So you can see, for example, my helmet over here is a champion item. I would only replace that item ever if it was a hero item, a myth item, or if it was another champion item that had better stats. So in this case here, this one here has critical and strike and haste. I would only ever replace that if I found another champion helmet that had haste and mastery, or if it was a higher upgrade level, either like hero or myth. So that was the stats. Let's jump to the talents very quickly. So basically I have made two talents here. I have one for the dungeon build here, which is very focused on AoE damage. We got like explosion damage, we have additional target damage. So it's a build that is very focused on dealing a lot of damage to all the mobs all the time, like dungeon wise. And you can see the dungeon we just did actually went quite well. Then I also have another build here, which is the raid build, and this build here is very more focused on single target damage, like raid bosses, dealing damage, just more damage to the opponent you're facing right now, just the one single opponent. So again, we got a raid build, we got a dungeon build. All of these builds are inside. Well, yeah, all of these builds is of course on my Discord, but yeah, we've got a dungeon. For the dungeon build you should be using for anything, like literally anything except raids. The raid build is only for raid, but dungeon build should be used for anything else, leveling, dungeons, delves, and so on. We're using Shadowpan, it's currently the meta, and it works so much better with the single button system, because this one here only has passives, where Conduct Celestial require you to use another ability. So Shadowpan is just so much better for the single button system, and luckily it's also the beta. Then we have the rotation. The rotation is a bit funny, because normally the rotation requires you to use Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, Tiger, and Storm Earth. What is it called? Storm Earth and Fire. But we're not allowed to do that because the single button rotation doesn't want to use it. So we're going to skip the phrase spells in the start, and we're actually going to start with Storm, Earth and Fire and the Tiger at the same time. So what you're going to do is basically you face your targets, and you're going to press 1 and 2 at the same time, because then it's going to use both spells. And then it's very important you start spamming 1, because when you do 1 and 2 at the same time, you're going to spawn your Tiger, you're going to spawn your Storm, Earth and Fire, but none of them is going to start attacking. They first start attacks when you actually use a spell that attacks. So it's very important, once you press 1 and 2 at the same time, you can also just do like 1, 2, or 2, 1, or 1 and 2 at the same time. I like to press them at the same time. But then it's very important you start spamming 1 after that, because else they don't attack. So like 1, 2, and then start spamming 1. And then you have a rotation going on. And then you actually just press 1 all the time, and it automatically will use your rotation. Then of course we have number 3, we got a heal, and that heal is always like instant cast, because every time you use Rising Sun Kick, as you can see up here, every time you use the Rising Sun Kick in the rotation, it actually gives us an instant Vivify, so you can like keep healing yourself or heal your allies. You also have number 4 as an interrupt, 5 as a dodge, number 6 as a transcendence. So first of all, you need to set up the transcendence on Q, and then you can like teleport back to it if you're like standing in something you don't like. We also got Flying Serpent Kick. We got Tiger's Lust to make you run very fast and also remove like stuff on you, kind of like Blessing of Freedom from Paladins. Fortifying Brew, 20% more health, and reduce all damage taken by 20. And then we got free AoE ability, like not AoE, but like we got interrupt abilities. Imagine all these mobs here casting a spell you don't like, then you can use Ring of Peace below them, like this, and they would all like jump to the side and stop casting whatever they cast. We also have Leg Sweep, which is like an AoE, stun ability like this. And we also got a Paralysis, which is like stunning the target for 1 minute. But if you start attacking them again, it will go off. It of course requires a little bit damage, like you actually have to do a little bit more damage than that. You can see, there we go. It actually required a lot of damage. So that's it. That's actually the entire rotation. There's just one more spell I want to talk about importantly. We have this spell here called Touch of Karma. And if you play the spec here very cleverly, very nice, Touch of Karma can actually deal insane amount of damage. It can actually deal like... So the thing is, it absorbs the damage you take up to 50%, and then 70% of that damage is going to return to whoever did it to you. So that means if a boss drops like a big AoE on the ground, you can actually use Touch of Karma, keep standing in it until it goes off, and you can automatically see when it goes off by just, you know, waiting till your HP goes down to 0. I don't think it's actually in here in the advanced cooldown manager. No, they don't have added it here. So you can just wait till your HP actually starts moving and then jump out of it. And then all the damage you're going to do, you took while that is actually going to go back to the target here. So you can see here, if I start attacking this guy here and I use Touch of Karma now, then you can see Touch of Karma is now starting to attack. You can see there. And it actually does, look at that, how much damage it does. And now, let's wait, now I'm actually starting taking damage. So now my Touch of Karma is done. But look at that. It's actually not the number 1 most damage, except for my legendary cloak. It did 4 million damage in the go. So Touch of Karma is, in my opinion, such an important spell, because it absorbs around, like, you know, 50% of your HP, and it gives 70% back to whoever did that damage. So if you use it like wisely, you know, whenever like a boss drops a little thing on the ground that deals a lot of damage that most people go out of, you can actually use Touch of Karma, and you can stand in it and then deal tons of damage back. Of course, you can also save it for, like, you know, phases where you know you're going to receive a lot of damage and it's going to help the healer. But, you know, play smart, use the Touch of Karma like very nicely. And this is why the build is still fun even though we use single button resistant, because you got so many utilities you can use while pressing 1. So, you know, you got your cooldown, your number 2 cooldown, you should always use it in your opener, important opener I would say. Touch of Karma, which you can use, don't just use it because it's only going to be there for 6 seconds. There actually needs to be something that's damaging you, so don't just use it, because then if you don't get damaged for those 6 seconds, you just wasted a 1.5 minute cooldown. So yeah, so that's the summary. I think that's covering pretty much everything. So thanks for watching, everyone. It was a pleasure making this video here. This Windwalker Monk video was actually super fun to make. I am very impressed with the spec. It's clean, it's nice, it's really nice, it's fun. We did a dungeon before where we actually managed to do quite amount of damage against the boss. Like, I was actually surprised to see how much damage we did. And everyone else in the party had the same amount of eye level as us. So it's quite cool, quite cool. So yeah, thanks for watching. Next up is probably going to be the Frost Mage. And I'm also thinking of dropping a shorter version of this video here. So that's going to be like a long version of this one here, which is the one you're watching right now. And then I'm also going to maybe try and see if I can make like a 20-minute video of this build as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Have a great day. And in case you want to support the channel even further, feel free to become a YouTube member. you pay like $5 a month, and then you get like exclusive content, a badge next to your name if you comment, or even look the live stream. And there will be some exclusive content as well. Plus, your name is going to be in the credits. So when the credits are rolling, your name is going to be there, in case you want to support the channel even further. But still, it's not required, because just you watching this video is also supporting a lot. So thank you a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next guide. Peace out.